Hello, my name is Valerie Elliot. I'm a senior at the Christian School. So my next project is this painting with this very beautiful easel. So this painting is about the crucifixion. So it is a more serious subject. I wanted to retell the crucifixion story myself. So we have it here. So the chief priests were conspiring against Jesus. They planned to kill him, tempting his own disciple, Judas, with money. He agreed to help them with their mission. At the Mount of Olives, Jesus was betrayed. Judas pointed him out to those capturing him. They led him away to the high priest's house, where he was interrogated on being who he was. When asked if he was the Son of God, he replied, "You say that I am." So that means that he is. Jesus was brought to Pilate, the governor, and stood firm in his reply that he was the Son of God. At a feast, Pilate gave the crowd, at a feast of the at the prison, Pilate gave the crowd the option to release Jesus or a criminal, Barabbas. The crowd chose Barabbas to be released. Once this was decided, Jesus was led to be crucified. Jesus was mocked with the crown of thorns on his head. During the trip to crucify him, a man named Simon of Cyrene was compelled to carry the cross. They arrived at Golgotha, which means a place of a skull, and stamped the cross into the ground. Jesus was to be crucified alongside two robbers, which he brought up with him. The bystanders would continue to mock him even after he was on the cross. During the 9th hour, Jesus died. He was buried in a tomb of great stone. So I painted it. I wanted to do some symbolism with the sun being here, which is a bit accurate to the time that he died, which was 3 p.m. And I wanted that to be as a sign of hope for the future. Mm-hmm. I also used a technique of making him not exactly the center, a little bit off, a little bit higher, because that will bring your eyes back to him. There's also other, like the shadow of the cross, that leads you back to the painting. This is the real Hebrew of the King of the Jews that I wrote. I had to use the toothpick for the final things with this and the finer details. So that took me about 10 hours of actually painting, and then I did about 6 more hours of research. I also made a failure painting where I used oil paints, and I underestimated the amount of time it took for oil to dry. It still feels a little wet, and I did this about 3 weeks ago. I looked it up after I made this, that it can take up to months for oil to dry. So the paintings you see and wrote, there's a reason that those paintings take years. But that's about all. Is there any questions?
I just noticed that you don't, on the shadow, you don't see his arms. Was that because the part of the hope of, because he's not on the cross anymore, he's paid the price? And
it was meant to be a bit like that, like of his non-mortality, like he is of heaven. So
that's cool. Thank you.
These the bottom, are they what? It's like the pen connecting the legs together,
nailed together like this. Or
is he like? What's the white thing on him?
That's a cloth. Anyone else? Ariana?
Do you know what the Hebrew says?
Oh yeah, it says the King of Hebrews. The Jews.
King of the Jews.
Louis, did you have a question? Yes?
Why is it him like that?
His hands were nailed to the cross.
Oh.
Anyone else? Sure.
Did this take place in like the cave, or was it college fields?
No, it kind of like it looked like deserty,
But you released that there. So was it like he was in a tomb?
No, he's not in the tomb in this. This is when he was crucified. After he was crucified, he was put in the tomb. So he was taken down.
What's the gravestone?
you look on the green stuff?
No,
Or that?
on the left side, just like
These
this
two
size.
sides, the two big gray.
Oh, those are clouds. They're meant to be like a sign of the sin,
Mhm,
like
the
being forgiven
darkness.
and
I
leaving.
thought that was okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
That makes sense.
For
How many different? Do you know how many different nails got nailed into him?
what do you have?
What's that big crown on his head?
That's the crown of thorns. It was made to make